It's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julie, and welcome to Bodyful Day 196, Shortness of Breath, or SOB, and the senses. And today we're going to talk about the sense of sight. And we are going to talk about how shortness of breath, we're also going to sort of hijack the sense of sight and talk about how shortness of breath can evolve out of psychological, biological, and neurological functions, because that will help us lay the underpinnings for a lot of the work we do later on through the week. All right, so let's start with the basics. Let's take our deep breaths in. Deep breath in. And release. On this next deep breath in, I'm going to want you to expand through the belly, expand through the chest, expand into your sinuses, and as you do that, you'll feel your tail tuck, or your sacrum and tailbone tuck. Take a deep breath in. And release. And we are talking about shortness of breath this week. So when you take your breath in, I want you to think about, are there any places in my lungs where I do not feel like I am getting a full breath in? And can I breathe into that spot? Can I imagine breathing right into that little circle, or whatever size it is? Go ahead and take a breath in, breathe into those lungs. And release. All right, so shortness of breath is a biological, is a diagnostic condition that they use, that people use to describe the inability to get a full breath or the inability to oxygenate properly. So people with chronic pulmonary COPD, chronic pulmonary disorder, yes, will have issues with shortness of breath because their breath doesn't go into everything, because there are little pockets of scar tissue inside their lungs. People with asthma will experience shortness of breath because of inflammation in their tubes that go to the lungs. People with pneumonia will experience shortness of breath because there is water fluid in the little sacs of the little saccules or in their lungs, and so they cannot get a full breath in. People who are hyperventilating, people who are having a panic attack, have shortness of breath because the neurology of the system is making sure that their diaphragm can't go up and down and is condensing their ribs because of stress, and they cannot take a full breath in. And so there is, and in addition to having a panic attack, you've got the neurology of it, but you also have the psychology of it. So when you are stressed, you breathe differently than if you are not stressed. You breathe from up here, and that is less of a full breath than when you breathe into your diaphragm and out. So we've got the psychology, the stress, the neurology, how the brain then contorts the physiology of the body, and also biological reasons to have shortness of breath. So this week we're going to talk about how to use your senses, or how senses can be both good energy in and stressors. As always, we work from the healing equation. Energy to heal equals good energy in minus stressors. And we are working on, this time, the sense of sight. And when we think about the sense of sight, there are a couple of ways you can use the sense of sight. Well, there are a couple of ways we can think about the sense of sight. One is a stressor, and one as good energy in. So from the perspective of a stressor, we can think back to 2 weeks ago, or even beyond that, when the fires in California and Oregon were raging, and you could see the air. You could see the air. That is a visual stressor for breath. Knowing that the air is that toxic that you cannot see through it. Furthermore, you can see it and see how toxic it is. Even if there weren't toxins in that air, the psychology of seeing that situation is going to make it a stressful one. You are going to breathe differently than if you were sitting on a mountaintop and what you saw instead was a clouded overcast. A clouded overcast, because you are high up in the mountains, is okay. It's still seeing the air. It's still having a visual experience of things going in and out. But it is not stressful. Or watching your air when you blow out, seeing your exhaust, seeing the CO2 and what's blowing out because it is so cold out. That is also seeing the air. But is that a stressor? For those of us who don't mind the cold, it's actually really good energy in, because you just go, and you have so much fun. We also might think of it in terms of smoke and smoking. So smoking, done by a large group of people, does make the air thick. You can see the air. It suggests stressors there. But at the same time, we all think it's really cool to watch somebody smoke a cigar and blow those big rings. There is something joyful about that. And Teddy Roosevelt would tell you, of course, that a good organic, well, in his day it wasn't organic, a good Cuban cigar, but a good organic cigar is actually an antiparasitic. So not all seeing the air is necessarily bad. You could talk about using sage and various things around the house. You can talk about the dehumidifier, a humidifier pushes water and mist into the air. You can see the air. And so you have to distinguish between seeing the air as a joyful, playful, cool thing versus the stressor. Now, the other way that we can use vision when we are working with shortness of breath, so let me just clarify, when you see air and it comes across at you as a stressor, you will tighten up, your breath will become more from here, and you will experience symptoms of shortness of breath. When it's the playful smoke rings, humidifier, and water-based, humidity-based diffuser, those sort of things spark joy. And so that actually causes the system to relax, and you can get a better breath in. There's something about humidity and seeing water mist that taking a deep breath in just makes you feel good. All right, so there's the other way that sight can be used. Sight can affect shortness of breath. And that is having a visual representation of your breath. So you can put beanbags here, and you can watch yourself breathe, and watching your abdomen expand and go back versus watching your chest go up and down. The action of visually connecting in with your breath, whether it's a chest breath or a belly breath, can actually loop in on itself and make breathing even more calming. That is the reason why people who are having panic attacks and are getting shortness of breath through panic attacks breathe into a bag, because that is an activity where you see the vision of the bag expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. So the visual input of this is how I breathe also contributes to the calming feature. So watching yourself breathe and watching your body, whether it's watching that belly breath or breathing in and out of the bag, you are using your visual system to connect your senses to your neurology, to your psychology, and therefore slowing or changing your biology so that you are no longer in a state of shortness of breath, but are back breathing fully and deeply and functioning at your best level. So, welcome to this unit on shortness of breath, and we just talked about vision. We'll go through all the other 6 senses that I've got, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Have a wonderful day. Let's finish it off. Take a deep breath in. I'm seeing the air in the leaves being blown, and blow it out. Have a great day.